This is the In Focus podcast from The Hindu.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the In Focus podcast. I'm your host, G. Sampath. The delay by the Election Commission in sharing the voters' data of the first and second phases of the ongoing Lok Sabha elections has evoked sharp questions from the opposition and also from civil society. The EC released the final voter turnout figures for Phase 1 after 11 days and for Phase 2 after 4 days from the date of polling. Moreover, it has only released the turnout percentages, 66.14% in Phase 1 and 66.71% in Phase 2. It is yet to release the actual number of voters who went out and cast their vote. The Election Commission has also not made public the absolute number of voters in each constituency. This is a number that should be readily available. You don't need to count it. But the EC's refusal or reluctance so far to share it has raised concerns as well as disturbing questions about the possibility of manipulation at the counting stage. Another issue that has been flagged is the sizable difference in turnout figures between the close of polling day and the date of announcement of final voter percentages by the Election Commission. So, what has traditionally been the EC's practice with regard to sharing of electoral data? How much time is it supposed to take? What kinds of data does it share as a matter of course? And are the concerns about vote manipulation at the counting stage, are these concerns valid or are they misplaced? We discuss all these questions in detail in this episode of In Focus, and we have with us M.G. Devasahayam, a former IAS officer who is also coordinator, Citizens Commission on Elections. Mr. Devasahayam, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to In Focus.
Thank you.
So, one understands that there was a clear-cut practice by the Election Commission of sharing voter data, which was followed right till 2014. And this practice stopped in 2019, we don't know why, and it hasn't been followed in 2024 as well. So can you give us a quick historical overview of what has been the Election Commission's traditional practice, the traditional practice in terms of sharing the data for any given phase of polling? What is this data it's supposed to share? Within what time frame is it supposed to share?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Actually, transparency is the cornerstone of free and fair election. You can't be secretive. You can't be stealthy. So the practice followed by Election Commission has been very transparent till 2014. See, actually, if you look at the manuals, Election Commission has issued very elaborate manuals for every functioning, for the polling officers, the presiding officers, the returning officers, the observers, the whole lot. And accordingly, the collection of data is part and parcel of the conduct of election rules and the manual. So when the election is in progress, the polling is in progress, the returning officer, who is the key person as far as the elections are concerned, is supposed to send data to the Election Commission twice on that particular day at 1 o'clock, around immediately after lunch, at 7 p.m. and final report should be next morning at 7 a.m. 3 reports periodically, and the information should contain how the election has been going on, has there been any mischief, any kind of problems, any law and order problems. Besides that, the number of votes polled, the percentage of polling, and based on which you have find these tentative numbers are being released in the media, and then we come to know. So by their rule and manual, by 7 a.m. in the morning of the next day, the Election Commission will have all the data of the votes polled, because there are 2 documents that are critical documents in the polling booth, the polling station, which is continuously maintained. It's called Form 17A and 17C. 17A is the voters list, the list of electors for the particular polling station, polling booth. And as the elector comes in, he has to be verified, he has to sign the register. So to register that, he has come and registered his vote. Now what happens after that? there is a possibility of he may not vote due to some objection, or he may not be allowed to vote. There are very rare ones. But then he goes and votes. After he votes, it is in the control unit. The vote is registered. So every 2 hours, the presiding officer or the polling officer who is managing the control unit has to keep on looking at the total number of votes polled. So the numbers 17A, 17C, based on 17C, the returning officer sends the report to the Election Commission at 1 o'clock during daytime, 7 o'clock in the evening, and final report at 7 a.m. in the morning. Then in addition, the next day of the polling, both the returning officer and the observer, they sit together, go through the entire 17A and 17C. It is called scrutiny. So they do the scrutiny the whole day. And by the evening of the next day of polling, the entire information is available to the Election Commission. So earlier, the practice was the Election Commission was transparent. It was open. They could tell us they had nothing to hide and conceal. So they gave out the numbers, and there is minor variation. It is always acceptable. This 2019, they started with that, but they landed up in serious trouble. There was serious mismatch between the votes polled and votes counted. Then they withdrew the the website. And 2024, they have completely stopped giving any information as far as the number of votes polled. The percentage also, they give the percentage, and there has been variation in percentage. In Tamil Nadu, there was an increase in percentage, 5 to 6%. In West Bengal, there was increase. I think in Tamil Nadu, there was decrease. So there is a lot of variation in percentage of voting. So unless you tell the absolute number of people who poll, because 17C, at the close of the polling, he has to press the close button. 17C, on the screen of the control unit, the total votes polled comes in, 700, 800, 800, 750, whatever. Immediately that has to be entered in Form 17C and signed by the presiding officer, and copies to be given to each election agent. So the point I am trying to make is, data is available in the public space, but it is compiled by the returning officer, sent to the Election Commission. Selection Commission has got all the facilities to put the totals together and announce constituency-wise. If they are not doing it, they are up to some mischief, which is not acceptable, and Commission has not been able to give us any tangible reason why they have not done this.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for this very, very detailed and informative explanation of the entire process with regard to data sharing. I mean, the two big takeaways is that all the three data points, the voter list, the number of voters, the number of votes polled, and the percentages, they're all completely and transparently available with the election commissioners, simply because it is the job of the returning officers, as per the EC manual, to get all these data back to the Election Commission by 7 a.m. the next day. So it's very clear that within 24 hours they have the data, but the fact that they have chosen not to make it public for as long as 4 days and 11 days suggests, according to you, that they might be up to some mischief. Have I summed up correctly what you've said?
Absolutely right. Even after 11 days, as you rightly said, they've only given the percentage. They have not given the absolute number of votes. There is a lot of difference between these two.
Right. So, but let us for hypothetically give the Election Commission the benefit of the doubt. 24 hours is the norm for sharing this data, as you said. But what are the, maybe let's say there is some inefficiencies or incompetencies or whatever. What are the potential logistical difficulties that could explain this delay of 11 days and 4 days for phases 1 and 2 in terms of the turnout percentages, But, and also secondly, the delay, the ongoing delay in sharing the number of votes pooled. Are there any logistical issues you anticipate here?
To my knowledge, there is no logistical issue at all. If at all, things have improved a lot. As you know, the telecommunication system is vastly improved. The access is available instantly. Earlier, it used to be manually done. It used to be snail mail, manually, telephone, clumsy telephone system. Now it is everything is instant. Instantly, information goes. So I don't see any logistic problem at all. In fact, I consulted a very senior source, very reliable source, and asked them what is happening in the election commission. And the information I received is they are doing it deliberately. The information that has come out of the election commission is the top fellows are doing it deliberately. Nobody knows what is the intention. And the response seemed to be, if they want to find out, let these fellows find out. Why should we tell them? See, that kind of casual attitude is being displayed by the election commission. Otherwise, there is no earthly reason. There can be absolutely no logistic issue at all for not giving this information. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that aspect. One more different, controversy in this entire saga is that the difference in polling percentages between the close of polling and the date of announcement of the final turnout figures by the election commission. In both phase 1 and phase 2, there is an increase of about 5 to 6% from the initial polling percentages announced by the election commission. Is this kind of a difference normal? Some commentators have said 2 to 3% is normal, maybe even 5 to 6% is normal. What are your thoughts on this?
This is not normal at all. See, if you have been observing, first the numbers come around 7 p.m., 7 to 8 p.m. The number is announced. Tentatively, they say this is a percentage of votes. Okay, that is always taken as tentative because the polling process is still on. People must be standing in queue. That is perfectly acceptable. At about 11 o'clock, the second information comes. That is by and large accurate. 11 p.m. By the time the entire polling process would have been over and information would have reached the returning officer. Returning officer would made a fair assessment and informed the percentage, and based on that, the CEO, Chief Electoral Officer of the state, releases the constituency-wise percentage of votes polled. Okay, that is fairly accurate. But by next morning, everything would have been tallied, and information that comes in the next morning must be absolutely accurate. 99%, 99.9%. There can't be any variation. Maybe very small 0.1% or something like that may be acceptable. Certainly not 3% or 5% or 6%. This is very serious. There could be only two reasons for this. Either gross incompetence, inefficiency on the part of the entire down the line from the polling officers, presiding officers, returning officers, election commission, which is unlikely because the standard of IAS officers, because the entire returning officers are all 100% IAS officers. The election commission also handled by almost the entire IAS. I don't think IAS, the efficiency has gone down that badly. So I don't blame it on inefficiency. There is something else which I am quite disturbed about, which is needs to be looked at, and the election commission is duty bound to tell the people as to why this happened. They must explain the reason. Inefficiency, I will not accept. I don't think it is inefficiency. There is something else which is happening, which is not in the knowledge of the people.
Right. Okay, so you're saying you're ruling out inefficiency, incompetency, etc., because all of them are IAS officers at the end of the day, and their efficiency hasn't drastically plummeted suddenly, as you say. But at the same time, if it is not inefficiency, let's say there is some kind of mischief, which is a speculative kind of thing to say. But let's assume, hypothetically, that's a possibility. There are others who have countered this by saying this kind of mischief or manipulation is not possible at the counting stage, some kind of a vote numbers manipulation, because every candidate already has the Form 17C data, through their polling booth agents. And in case there is any mismatch, in case there is any mischief, the different candidates will get to know, and whoever has been trying to do this mischief will be caught out. So do you therefore agree that these data related issues are probably signs of inefficiency and not a malified intent?
No, this argument is untenable because See, if you have seen the attitude of the Election Commission for all the other processes, see, as you know, there are 4 or 5 processes in the whole election. The notification of the election, the nomination process, the campaign process, the voting process, the transportation, storage, and counting. 6, 7 processes. Out of all these, they are willing to take any number of days or weeks in the first 5, 6 processes. Whereas counting, as soon as it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, they want to finish it off in the matter of few hours. Counting is the most crucial part of the election. And counting is where the tension builds up. The entire media is watching. By 10 o'clock also, the tension builds up, the election result. In the process, there is no time for this kind of cross-checking and cross-verification. See, for an assembly constituency, let's take Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, typically, it's got 300 booths. Average 5 to 6 constituencies, Tamil Nadu 6 constituencies, there are about 1,800 booths in a parliamentary constituency. There are 1,800 Form Cs. It's very difficult for a candidate to get hold of all these 1,800 or 2,000 Form Cs, compile them and make it into a thing and can confront the counting officers during counting. Counting, there is always tension and there is no time. And Election Commission has been deliberately, if you see the argument in the EVM also, they want to hurry up the counting. They will take 2 months, 3 months to finish off the electoral process, but they want to hurry up the counting. Now, putting 2 and 2 together, because I have been observing the electoral process very closely. Now, why are they so terribly in a hurry for the counting? So, there will be hustling during counting, there will be bullying during counting. So, there will be no time for this kind of cross-checking, cross-verification. That is the reason why the Election Commission from the beginning itself must be very transparent, announce the number of votes polled, percentage of poll, so that there is no doubt in anybody's minds when the counting starts about the integrity and honesty of counting. So this argument does not wash because of the Election Commission's extreme kind of hurry they make in counting and announcing the results, which is the most critical, in my view, of all the processes in the election.
Right. So what about this whole issue of not making public the absolute numbers of voters in a constituency, electorate? Should they not make it public, or is they not making it public because there are other ways of getting this data?
No, there are other ways. See, the percentage is available. They know what is the total number of the every candidate has got the list of voters list with him. So if you look at you say 70%, they know, they can immediately calculate what is the real vote. But that is, if each candidate start working on it, or political parties start working on it, there is bound to be variation. Election Commission is a constitutionally mandated institution to give confidence to the people. Transparently, they have the entire facility with them. They have professionals with them. Candidates don't have professionals. Election Commission has got competent professionals. They got technical people. They got statistical people. They can recruit any number of people they want. And they have the machinery. They have the entire administrative machinery with them. Returning officers are with them. And they can cross-verify from the observers, or also senior officers. So when they have everything, data is available, they've got all the facilities, why are they not making this simple announcement, which has been there till 2014? What changed in 2019 and then particularly 2024? It is becoming much worse. And my information is that they're doing it deliberately, the election commissioners. They're laughing it out, I am told. Let the fellows calculate themselves. Why should we tell them? Obviously, there seems to be something which is cause of botheration.
Right. One last question, sir. So you have explained really with great clarity why this delay is inexplicable and inexcusable as well, because there is no reason for it, and you're saying that transparency also, of course, is the key to credibility of the entire electoral process. So what recourse does the public have, do citizens have, to ensure that the Election Commission shares data as per the pre-2019 precedent? Up to 2014, whatever they were sharing, as you have explained, the way they were sharing it within 24 hours. Is there any way to make sure that in the coming phases, at least today we have phase 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they share the data in a transparent way? Is there any way to hold them accountable as far as the public and the citizenry is concerned?
See, it's a very good question. Election Commission is self-accountable. It is a constitutional body mandated by the people to conduct free and fair election. Supreme Courts have repeatedly given judgment that free and fair election is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. And Supreme Court is the Election Commission is given the status of the Supreme Court. They have begun a very high status, and they have been given high protection, high salaries, high perks, everything to conduct free and fair election. So that is their primary job, and they must do it to create confidence among the public, trust among the public. They have to be transparent. But the problem here is the present Election Commission is not interested in public trust. They feel protected by the government. They feel protected by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court doesn't bother about public opinion either. They say, all right, Election Commission is also a constitutional body. We will not question them. So the Election Commission is not being questioned by the Supreme Court, the only competent authority to question Election Commission. Government is in league. They are, this is convenient to them. So feeling protected by the by the Supreme Court and the government, the Election Commission thinks that they can ride roughshod over the public. They don't have to pay, because this exercise can be done. It's not that it cannot be done by the public. It cannot be done by the candidates. They can put some professionals into the job, do the cross verification, do some kind of auditing. But there is bound to be variation when these numbers are done by so many candidates in 543 constituencies. There is bound to be confusion, and that is why we have an Election Commission of India.
Right.
Many other countries don't have such an Election Commission. We have it. So the problem is Election Commission feels overprotected by the government and by the state Supreme Court. I would request the Election Commission to respond to the public opinion and be transparent. Every problem will be solved.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure listening to you explain the entire process. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
In Focus will be back soon with analysis of the biggest news issues. In the meantime, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and other platforms. Just search for In Focus by The Hindu. We'll see you soon.